Good morning, everyone. In the yesterday's class, we discussed about CRUD operations in web application. In today's class, we are going to talk about time leaf. So what is time leaf and why we are going to use this time leaf in our application development. So before going to start that, we are learning Spring Web MVC module to develop web applications. Spring MVC module we are using, Spring Web MVC module we are using to develop web applications. Right now, when we develop web applications, we will use some presentation files. We will develop some presentation files. Now, in Spring Web MVC module, in Spring Web MVC module, we are using JSP as a presentation technology. In Spring Web MVC module, we are using JSP as a presentation technology. Now, traditionally, this JSP is the default choice for generating HTML files while building web applications. Now, we are using Spring Web MVC module to develop web application. In Spring Web MVC module, we are using JSP as a presentation technology. So traditionally, we will use this JSP as a default choice for building web applications. Now, JSP is a very mature technology. Very mature technology that we are using to develop our presentation tile. But important points to know about JSP. What are some important points is JSP is not a template engine. Why? Because whenever you create a JSP in the backend, that will be converted to servlet again. It is not rendering on the browser directly. So JSP is not a template engine to render the web pages on the browser directly. JSP is not a template engine. It will not render web pages directly on browser. If it can render web pages directly on the browser, then we can call it as a template engine. But here, JSP is not a template engine. It is not rendering the web pages directly on the browser. These JSP files again will be converted. Into servlets. JSP files will be converted into servlet. JSP files will be converted into servlet to produce a response on the browser. So JSP is not a template engine. JSP will not render directly on the browser. In the background, that JSP will be converted into a servlet program. That servlet program will generate the response to the browser. The servlet program will send response to the browser. Guys, are you able to understand? Are you guys able to understand? All of you clear with this? We are using Web MVC module to develop web applications. In Web MVC module, we are using JSP as a presentation technology. Traditionally, this is JSP is the default choice for generating HTML files while building web applications. JSP is a very mature technology. Important points to know about JSP. JSP is not a template engine. It will not render web pages directly on browser. Good. JSP files will be converted into servlet to produce response on the browser. Now, coming to time leaf. Time leaf is a template engine. Time leaf is a true template engine. Time leaf is a true template engine. Time leaf is a true template engine which takes HTML file, parse it, and then produce web content which is being served. Produce web content on browser directly. Got my point, guys? Timeleaf is a true template engine which takes HTML file, parse it, and then produce web content on browser directly. Got it, guys? What is Timeleaf? Timeleaf is a true template engine which takes a HTML file, parse it, and then produce web content on browser directly. So what is the difference between JSP and Timeleaf now? Can you guys understand? The difference between JSP and Timeleaf. Guys, come on. What is the difference between JSP and Timeleaf now? JSP is not a template engine, whereas Timeleaf is a template engine. JSP files will be converted into servlet programs, whereas Timeleaf files, HTML files will be directly parsed and produces response on the browser. Guys, did you understand the difference between JSP and Timeleaf? Timeleaf is more like a HTML view. Timeleaf is more like HTML view. JSP files will be converted to servlet to produce the result, whereas Timeleaf files will directly generate the results on the browser. Right. Now, so Timeleaf, we are going to use HTML tags in the Timeleaf. Using Timeleaf, we can display dynamic data in HTML files. Using Timeleaf, we can display dynamic data in HTML files. So generally, we have seen the differences between JSP and HTML. By using JSP, we can display dynamic web pages. By using HTML, we will display static web pages. Whereas when it comes to Timeleaf, Timeleaf is a template engine which will parse the HTML file and will render the response in the browser directly. Timeleaf is more like a HTML view. So what we can do using this Timeleaf? Using this Timeleaf, we can display dynamic data in HTML files. Spring Boot supports Timeleaf as a presentation technology. Spring Boot supports for Timeleaf as a presentation technology. Guys, all of you able to understand? Can you guys read it? What is this Timeleaf? Can you guys read it? What is time leaf? JSP will not be fast, sir. JSP should be converted to servlet. It will take time. Here HTML, this time leaf is a HTML. Directly will render on the browser. No need of converting that data to the servlet program. Performance-wise difference will be there. If you take JSP, fastly you can see that. But when you have lot of dynamic content, it has to be converted to servlet program. At least you will see the difference in the milliseconds. But when it comes to the time leaf, directly it will render on the browser. It is a template engine. You will work with only HTML tags in the time leaf. Whereas in the JSP, that should be converted back to Java program and it should produce the response to the browser. Milliseconds difference will be there. We have HTML and CSS. HTML is used for displaying the static content. By using time leaf, we can display dynamic content in the HTML. HTML, CSS we have. Why to go for time leaf? HTML is used for only static content. CSS for styles. Time leaf to display dynamic data in the HTML files. Got my point, all of you? The difference between JSP and time leaf. JSP is not a template engine. It will not render web pages directly on browser. JSP files will be converted into servlet to produce response to the browser. Whereas Timeleaf is a true template engine which will work with HTML files only. It will take the HTML file, it will parse that file and will produce the content directly on the browser. Timeleaf is more like HTML view. Using Timeleaf, we can display dynamic data in the HTML files. Spring Boot supports for Timeleaf as a presentation technology. Spring Boot supports for Timeleaf as a presentation technology. Right. Good. Next one. So let's start developing one application by using Timeleaf in the Spring Boot. Timeleaf in the Spring Boot. Right. So working with Timeleaf. In order to work with the Timeleaf, working with Timeleaf in Spring Boot. Working with Timeleaf in Spring Boot. Working with Timeleaf in Spring Boot. In order to work with Timeleaf, Spring Boot provided one starter. Spring Boot provided starter. To use Timeleaf in our project, to use Timeleaf in our project, Spring Boot provided below starter. Spring Boot provided below starter form for us. To use Timeleaf in our project, Spring Boot provided below starter. Now, group ID and artifact ID. First, we will take it as a dependency tag. Inside the dependency tag, we will have group ID and artifact ID. Group ID and the next one is artifact ID. Next one is artifact ID. So what is the group ID for the Spring Boot dependencies? The group ID for Spring Boot dependence is org.springframework.boot. org.springframework.boot. That is the group ID. Artifact ID. What is artifact ID for that? Spring Boot starter Timeleaf. So it is a starter. Spring Boot starter Timeleaf. Spring Boot starter Timeleaf. Spring Boot starter Timeleaf. This is that starter that we need to add in our project. If you want to use Timeleaf as a presentation technology in the boot applications, we need to add this starter in our pom.xml. Then you can use Timeleaf as a presentation technology. Good. Note. If we add this dependency in the pom.xml, we no need to do any other configuration. No need of a view resolver for the Timeleaf. After we no need to do any other configurations to work with Timeleaf. We no need to do other configurations to work with Timeleaf. Spring Boot will take care of it. We no need to take any other configurations to work with time leaf. Spring Boot will inject all required configurations to work with time leaf. We just need to add a dependency in the pom.xml. Then you can use the time leaf as a presentation technology. You don't need to do any other configurations in our application. You don't need to configure any. You don't need to do any other configurations in the project. Boot will provide those configurations for you to work with the time leaf if you add this starter. Now, steps to develop Spring MVC application using time leaf. Guys, I hope you understood the difference between JSP and time leaf and how to use time leaf in the project. Guys, are you able to understand? So JSP is one of the matured presentation technology. But the problem is JSP is not a template engine. JSP files should be converted to servlet to produce the response to the browser. Whereas time leaf is a true template engine. So when you use time leaf as a presentation technology, so you are going to create the HTML files only. In that HTML files, by using time leaf, we can display dynamic data, and these time leaf files will directly rendered in the browser. No need of any translation. So performance wise, it is best than JSP, because JSP is translation required for every JSP. But for the time leaf, those translations are not required. So Spring Boot having very good support for time leaf as a presentation technology. How to work with the time leaf in our boot application? To work with time leaf in our boot application, we are going to add one starter, that is Spring Boot starter time leaf. So we no need to add any other configurations to work with time leaf. Boot will inject all required configurations to work with time leaf. Now, let's start building one application by using time leaf as a presentation technology. Good. Fine. Steps to develop Spring Boot application with time leaf. Steps to develop boot application with time leaf. Good. First step, create Spring Boot application with below dependencies. Create Spring Boot application with below dependencies. What are those? First one, we are going to take as boot starter web starter. We need web starter. Now, second one, time leaf starter. Next one, I'm going to take dev tools. Steps to develop a web application with a time leaf. So create one boot application with below dependencies. They are web starter, time leaf starter, and dev tools. These are the dependencies we are going to use to develop our application. Next one, create a controller class with required methods. Create controller class with required methods. As it is a first time leaf application, I will display one welcome message. Using time leaf. Now, after that, view files. Create HTML view files. HTML view file using time leaf. Create HTML view file using time leaf. Now, location of views. Here, SRC main resources templates. We are going to create the HTML views, time leaf view files inside the templates folder, which is available inside the resources folder. Because we no need of any view resolver, boot can easily load the templates available in the templates folder. So time-leaf templates, time-leaf files means HTML files. Those HTML files we are going to keep in the templates folder. We no need to configure any view resolver. Boot is going to take care of it. Configure server port and run application. Configure server port and run the application. If we can convert these steps into a project, then we can understand how to work with the time-leaf. First step, creating a project with the dependencies. Second step, creating a controller class with required methods. Third step, we need to create the HTML files using time-leaf template. Location of view, where we need to create the view file inside the templates folder. SRC main resources templates. Inside the templates folder, we are going to create those view files. Right now, after that, we need to configure server port number and run the application. All of you comfortable with these steps, guys? All of you comfortable with these steps? Come on, fast. Yep, same MVC structure, sir. Same MVC structure. Dispatcher servlet, handler mapper, controller, view model, view resolver is not required here. Directly view component will be rendered. It is MVC only. Just presentation technology is changed itself. Earlier, instead of earlier we used JSP. Now instead of JSP, we are going for time-leaf. That's it. Architecture is not modified. Spring architecture remains same. The only thing, presentation technology is changed. Instead of JSP, we are using time-leaf. Tomcat embed Jasper is not required because we don't have any JSPs. We don't have any JSP. Time-leaf is a HTML file. Time-leaf is a HTML file. Extension will be .html only. Time-leaf is an engine. Using that time-leaf engine, we will develop the HTML files. Time-leaf is an engine. We will develop a HTML file. That HTML file will use time-leaf. Time-leaf is a HTML file only, guys. Extension is a .html. Extension is .html. No need to bother about it. Things are same. The only thing, presentation technology is modified. That's it. Presentation technology modified. No other changes. Architecture will not be modified. Architecture will not be modified. Time-leaf is just a presentation technology. In the HTML files, we will use the time-leaf templates. Location is this. Note. So for the views, we will use view file extension .html. View file extension .html only. View file extension .html only. Inside the HTML files, we are going to use time-leaf templates. Got it, all of you? For JSPs, .jsp is the extension, but for time-leaf, .html. Inside the HTML, we will use the time-leaf engine to display dynamic content. Generally, by using HTML, we will display static content. To display dynamic content in the HTML, we are using time-leaf templates, time-leaf engines. Good. Now, can we develop this project now? Guys, can we develop this project now? Yep. Go to IDE. Yep. Close all the existing projects. So today we are going to work on our 27th project, guys. File, new project, Spring Starter project. Spring Starter project. Spring Boot, MVC, time-leaf app. Spring Boot MVC, time-leaf application. Next. Here we need to select the dependencies. Here we need to select the dependencies. What dependencies? Web dependency I am selecting, dev tools I am selecting, and I need time leaf. Web dependency, dev tools dependency I'm using, and time leaf also I'm going to use. Time leaf also I'm going to use. Time leaf template engine. Time leaf. A modern server-side Java template engine for both web and standard environments allows HTML to be correctly displayed in the browsers as a static prototype. Right. Now click on next. Click on finish. Time leaf application is getting created. No need of embed Jasper because no JSPC here. Yeah. Go to pom.xml. Go to pom.xml. Boot starter time leaf. Boot starter web and dev tools Tomcat test. No other dependencies are there. We selected one extra dependency that is called time leaf dependency. That's it. Time leaf dependency we have selected. Next, coming to same thing. Start class is available. There is no difference in that. Boot start class is available. Next, let me create one controller class. Second step is creating a controller class. New class controller. com.ashokid.controller. Inside this, I will create one controller as welcome controller. I will create one controller as a welcome controller. Click on finish. All right. Add controller. So it is not going to change the same style. To represent a Java class as a controller, we will use add controller annotation. We will use add controller annotation. Add controller. Add controller. Now let's write a method. Public string display welcome message. Public string display welcome message. Now, so here simply string message text is equal to welcome to Ashok ID. Welcome to Ashok ID. Now return message text or return our model object. Sorry, I need to store it in the model object. I need to store it in the model object. Model. Return model dot add attribute. Model dot add attribute. Key I will give as a message. Value is message text. Key and value. Then I'm going to return file name as index. I'm going to return the file name as index. Now this I will bind to one URL pattern, that is get mapping /welcome. Do you see any difference in this earlier and today? Previously when we used JSP also this file was same. Today also this file is same. There is no changes to our controller. The only thing is we are returning file. Earlier it was a JSP, now it is a time leaf templates. But does our controller knows what is a presentation technology? Does our controller knows what is a presentation technology? Our controller don't know what is presentation technology. Doesn't know. Controller don't know what is presentation technology. Controllers are Spring controllers are independent from presentation technology in the Spring applications. Either you can use JSP as a presentation, you can use TimeLeaf as a presentation, no issues. No issues. Able to follow this? All of you clear with this as of now? All of you clear with this as of now? Next step, we need to create a template file. Where we should create the template file? Inside the resources, we'll create one templates folder. In that folder, I will create a HTML file. Now look at this. In SRC resources, templates folder is already available. In SRC resources, templates folder is already available. Now, right click on this templates, new HTML file. Right click on the templates, create new HTML. Guys, here, when we select HTML file, observe carefully, a small change we need to do here. Templates, right click, new HTML file. By default, it is taking web app folder. No, we need to select the templates. The location we need to select as a template. Now, so what is that file name we need to use? Index.html. Index.html. We have created index.html file inside the templates. By default, it will take as a web app location when you choose HTML, but we need to change the location to the templates. This is my HTML file for presentation. In order to use TimeLeaf, we need to specify namespace of the TimeLeaf. We need to specify namespace of the TimeLeaf. How to specify that? XMLNS:/th. XMLNS:/th is equal to http://timeleaf.www.timeleaf.org www.timeleaf.org. That is the namespace of the TimeLeaf to use in our HTMLs. That is the namespace of the TimeLeaf that we need to specify to use in our HTML file. XML namespace:/th. Th is the alias name for this TimeLeaf. Now we can use TimeLeaf template options by using th name now. By using th name, not only th, you can give anything as a alias name, but here I'm giving th as a alias name. Now I want to display my message. h1 th:\text is equal to $of message. th:\text is equal to $of message. th:\text is equal to $of message. th:\text, which is used to display the text available in this. This is earlier we used $of msg, that was JSP to display. But if I write directly $of msg, what will happen, guys? If I write a $of msg in the HTML, what will happen? Only this will be printed. HTML don't know that this is a key, this is the expression language. If I write it directly $of msg, only this will be printed. It will not print the value of the key. But when we print $of msg by using th:\text, it will understand that it is a key and will get the value for that. This is what we are doing using TimeLeaf. So with the help of this th:\text, we are able to display dynamic content in the HTML file. We are able to display dynamic content in the HTML file. Now let me do one thing. Without TimeLeaf, if I use $of msg, without TimeLeaf, if I use $of msg, what is happening? Without TimeLeaf, if I use $of msg, what is happening? With TimeLeaf, what is going to happen? With TimeLeaf, I am displaying this value. Without TimeLeaf and with TimeLeaf. Guys, are you able to follow me? Without time leaf that I am printing in the H1 tag. Without time leaf and with time leaf, we are trying to print the data. Can you guess the expected output? Can you guess the expected output, guys? Can you guess the expected output now? Which one will display the actual value? First one will display the message or second one will display the message? Second one will display the message. Let's understand. Let's execute it. See that. Go to resources, properties file, server.port. I am not configuring view resolver. Please observe it. Server.port is equal to 9090. Now let's run our application. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. Adding welcome page template index. Welcome page template index. Tomcat server started with the port number 9090. Started port number 9090. Now here type it. Localhost colon 9090. Localhost colon 9090. So by default, welcome page is loading as an index, right? But when we will get the response from that /welcome, we have given a URL pattern. Now see here, without time leaf, dollar message is displaying. With the time leaf, actual message is displaying. So whenever you write dollar of message in the index.html, it understands it is a normal content and parse it. But when we use the time leaf, it is rendering the key and it is displaying the value for us. Without time leaf and with time leaf. Did you understand the difference? So in the HTML file, can we display a dynamic content now? In the HTML file, can we display dynamic content? In the HTML file, we can display dynamic content. How to display dynamic content in the HTML file? How to display dynamic content in the HTML file? Using time leaf. What is the extension for time leaf files? What is the extension for time leaf files? Extension HTML only. Extension is the .html only. Good. Now look at this file index.html. What we have done here. I just added a namespace for that th. Using th, I'm printing a text. Th colon text is equal to dollar of message, which will print the value holding by this key. So this message is sending by controller in the model object. That value we are printing in the browser by using time leaf template. Th colon text is used to print the content on the browser, dynamic content on the browser. Got my points, or all of you? Yep. So same controller, this is not changed. This controller, there is no change here. Welcome controller. Welcome controller.java. There is no changes for that. There is no changes for that. It is returning an index file. That file also I will give you, index.html. How we need to display that without time leaf and with time leaf. Index.html file. Index.html file. Index.html file. Where this file will be available? In the templates folder, this file will be available. Now, guys, look at this index file once again. Look at the index file.